Corey, you are live on YouTube. You're live, Corey. You're on.
All right. All right. Awesome. Welcome here, guys, to Beyond the Game. We got two special guests, and Mark Frito, and we got Coach Sean Hennessy, representing not just their respective towns, but their respective regions. You know, Coach Hen dialing in from the Adirondack region, and we got Coach Frito dialing in from Central New York. I guess first off, Coach Hen, how are you guys doing over in up in ADK?
We're doing very good. We're still waiting all the orders and doing all the things that we have to do. Looking forward to some lacrosse here soon, hopefully sooner rather than later. But it's beautiful out, and we have kids throwing and catching and doing the stuff that they're supposed to do up here in Adirondack. So
Good stuff, Coach Frito. How you doing, my man? Bar 607.
We're doing well. We're doing very well. Talked to a few of our kids. They're chomping at the bit. I know Section 3 is committed to getting some type of season in, whether it's, starts as soon as we can, but everybody's dying to get the game on. They're all the kids I talk to want to do something. They want to play.
Yeah, Long Island's the same thing. It's just like it's a big waiting game. It's a little frustrating, and everything keeps getting pushed back, but I guess there's hope, which is good. Big part of our conversation today, which we'll get into in a few minutes, is the New York State Regional Championships. Just kind of talking about how you guys have successfully built up your regions to create a competitive environment, great coaches, and just a great overall experience for the kids involved. So, Cliff, it's all right. Let's roll the show intro and a quick word from our sponsor, FLG Lacrosse, and then we'll get right into things. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Game. Again, we have Coach Mark Frito and Coach Sean Hennessy here representing Adirondack and Central. Coach Hen, we're going to start with you. Let's talk about how ADK has grown over the last 2 years. Talk about what excites you in your region with the New York State event, and how have you been able to successfully bring in some of the top players from around Adirondack to come represent the region at the New York State Regional Championships?
Well, our region actually has grown, and we have one of the bigger regions, I think, and because we start with Section 2 and we go up to Section 10. And just this past year, we've actually had more involvement with our Section 10. So it's great. I think I started it when we first originally. I was just a coach in our region, and ultimately I loved everything about it. And I came back and I started talking about how we could do this just a little bit better. What could we do just to make our kids more involved? We were only able to put together 3 teams that first year. And then last year, when we took over, we started to establish when our tryouts could be and how we could get more kids involved. We went from 77 kids in our first year trying out to about 180 kids over the 4 years trying out. And just that 1 year trying to make sure that we targeted the right people and the right coaches and, the right programs, as well as just marketing to every kid in our community, grades 9 through 12. It just seemed like it kind of took off. It was a lot of hoping there for a while. We weren't 100% certain if it was going to work. But, at that tryout date when 160, 170 kids showed up, it was pretty awesome.
Coach Hen, you talked about tryouts for your region this past winter. When did you guys do tryouts, and why did you do it during that time?
So we actually perform our tryouts right in February. It's normally right before February break. So the first year we did it was February 12th. This year was February 13th. We do it before. We figured that in order for the regional championships to be successful in our region, we needed to target kids and market to them when the coaches had them captured at the most critical time. So with up here in the Adirondacks, we have certain rules and restrictions on coaching out of season. So what we were able to do is we know that the coaches in our area have all the attention to all of their student athletes or their lacrosse players. right before March. So we said the best time is to use those coaches in cooperation with some developmental lacrosse avenues, as well as what we call a Power Sevens tournament, in order to market to say, all right, everybody has your kids. Keep on sending out these emails and send us your 3 best players at each level, and so on and so forth. We have in excess of 35 teams just in Section 2 alone. So if everybody just sent us their 3 best players at each level during these February tryouts, we could easily exceed a good competitive tryout format.
That's great. And Coach Friedel, let's turn it to you a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the Central region. Like, why did you originally start to get involved, and how have things been moving, in your region over the last couple of years in terms of getting the right kids at the event, attracting the correct coaches, and running a successful tryout in order to breed that environment?
Well, I got involved back when Coach Wink mentioned it to me, because I had been involved in the Empire State Games, and I thought it was one of the best things we've ever been a part on. I unfortunately got to coach in that 4 different times. I was an assistant with Ron Doctor way back in the 90s, around 94. Had some guys like Matt Kataya from Homer, went on to play at Syracuse, some other guys that were Ryan Powell, big-time players on that team, and we won a gold that year, and that was exciting. And then I got a chance to coach in Albany, had Tom Hardy and a couple other guys from the central area on our team, a bunch of West Jenny players. Dan Chamati, who's now the coach at Duke. Not Duke, Richmond. He played at Duke. Those guys were on our team, and it was just a great thing to be a part of. And I fortunately got to be a part of it a couple of other times too, with Kirk Ventaquattro when it was based right here in my backyard in Cortland. And then another time, actually the last one they ever had of the Empire State Games, when I'm fortunate to coach Tom Cottrell, the head coach in Homer, and Jimmy Morrissey, who played at Syracuse and now coaches at the collegiate level in Division II. And that was like the last Empire Games. I remember we had Kevin Rice, Dylan Donahue, played against Miles Jones on the island. It was just a great thing, a great competitive thing. My son played in it. So Tommy Grimm from Syracuse played, Carthage guy. It was just an awesome thing to be a part of. And a lot of kids nowadays don't really know much about it, because they don't know what that was like. And when I heard we could bring back something close to that or even better than that, I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned some incredible players during those times back in the day, and obviously a lot of talent, kids that evolved and grew from being standout high school players in their region in New York to being some of the best players in college, and then eventually even in the world. Now, a question for you, Coach Henn. Besides bringing in the best kids, maybe from all the high school programs around the sections that represent ADK, what are some of the other qualities that you're looking for in the players that are going to go up and represent the Adirondack region at the New York State event?
Well, ultimately, we're looking for, probably the same thing most other coaches are looking for. We're looking for good human beings. Kids that work hard, the kids that want to represent their region, kids that, love to play the game, the ones that get on the field and don't mind doing the dirty work and, laughing and joking around and meeting new people. And, when they're between the lines, as tough as they come, but when they leave the lines, the kid that walks over and shakes another kid's hand from Central or Long Island or, Western or is willing to help out. And, when you see them in the courtyards and stuff and they're all mingling and mixing around, and that, your region is out there and, they're sharing common bonds and doing the things that, high school boys do. And, they're smiling and laughing a little bit, and you get to kind of shake your head and walk away. And, you pick the right kids when you see that type of lacrosse community growing a little bit more. So we're looking for, basically the same thing everybody else is can we put some great individuals together and, see if they can mesh and go and achieve something special. And, we haven't had the success that Central has had and Long Island has had in the, as far as the Empire State Games or the regionals or anything like that. But, we're knocking on that door. We have some very talented lacrosse players that are, looking and learning and trying to, catch up. And just this past year alone, we saw some of our younger players look at the Central kids and be like, I can do that too. Or look at Long Island kids and be like, I can do that too. And that's really what we want to see is that type of level, bring our region, that type of talent level from other regions, bring our region to that level as well.
Absolutely. Coach Hen talked about the players. Coach Frito, you mind talking a little about your coaches? Like, how did you guys build a staff of guys that would go up to the regional championships and help coach up these kids, give them a great experience? And then, a big part of it is kids getting exposure and eventually getting recruited. Does that kind of, is that play a factor in terms of the coach selection in your region?
I think that plays a huge factor. We've been working with Jamie Archer and I co-direct this region, and he's the coach at Janesville DeWitt, and they have a very strong program. He's done a good job of getting a lot of his better players to come out. A lot Baldwinsville area has got a lot of better players to come out. We're getting kids from all over the region, down in the Binghamton area, up north to Carthage. We're a pretty large region land-wise. I mean, you can go all the way down to the bottom of the state and almost to the top of the state with people up as far as General Brown, or if you know where that is, up in the St. Lawrence area. So our region is pretty vast. And we've done a good job. I think a lot of it is the success the kids have had and the camaraderie the kids have had. We had our first year in Central, and the kids loved it. And they came back the next year and basically through social media and through some other things got talking to each other and saying, we need to do this again. And everybody else give this a try. And everybody else was on board with it, and it worked out great for us. A lot of those same kids came back the next year and tried out again. And there's even some more kids, and they ended up winning the gold last year in the 2020s.
Yeah, that was some group, the 2020. That was a really talented group. And, there's talent everywhere. Regardless of the region and the grad year, you're going to see really good players. And you see it, we'll talk about it in a few minutes, the All-Star game, when you kind of get all the kids meshing and mixing together on display, which is really neat. Now, before we talk about the games, which I definitely want to get into and spend some time addressing it and talking about and promoting, let's talk real quick about the top 50 game concept. I know in ADK, you guys kind of have your tryouts before the high school season. Central, you guys do your tryouts after the high school season. But after the kids, kind of go through that first round of tryouts, you have a top 50 game. Coach Hen, you want to talk a little bit about what that experience is like for your region and kind of why you do it, the thought process behind that?
Since we try out before, we try to understand what the process of getting into that top 50 game is. We give every kid a message when they leave on February 13th or 16th or whatever our last tryout date is. We give them the message of now go and listen to your coaches, take advantage of every opportunity. Think about your reps when you're doing your work at home, when you're doing your work on the field, and look at everybody around you. You know who you're going to compete against. We tell them that they're high school students now, high school student athletes. Evaluate, try to become better. And when they hit that top 50 game, they got to be looking around to see what they've done in the past in order to make them, the best lacrosse player they can be in order to make this team. We're going to be fortunate enough to have 50, 51, 52 and split that into at every level and split it into 25 versus 25 and, pick 25 out of it. Competition breeds success. When they get on that field, they know that, they're going to have to perform. And we take our head coaches and we set them aside. They don't have to coach. All they have to do is evaluate and pick talent. And just like anything else, it's a difficult situation for the coaches. It's difficult on kids. It's difficult on parents. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're trying to put something out there special, accomplish something for our region, and then also make this one of the most viable recruiting tools that we have for our kids moving forward.
Absolutely. And Coach Frito, how about for you guys? What's the experience like when you run your top 50 game up there in Central in terms of determining the right kids to play on the team and just the experience as a whole?
Well, we've been fortunate enough to have a really top-notch staff the last few years. Some of those guys have continued to stay with it. Some other guys have had some things come up like babies. so they're having a tough time coming back this year. I know Seth Benjamin, the Skinny Atlas head coach, he's had a couple of little ones, and the guy down in Vestal, he had a baby after the first year, so it's tough for some of these younger guys to be on board. But we've got a good veteran group of coaches coming back that are trying to, doing a nice job getting kids involved, getting kids signed up, and just realizing that, hey, if you want to see where you stand and you want to compete at the college level, you've got to get out there and you got to compete. And we have a lot of kids, especially we talk to our own kids in Homer, and I'll say, well, you really want to play at the college level, where do you stand? How many of these kind of events have you been to see where you stack up against other players? And we've added some new guys this year with coaching staff. The Ithaca High School coach, Patrick Covey, is going to join us this year. We're fortunate enough to get a great friend of mine, a retired coach, Kirk Ventaquattro, is the former coach at Carthage, is going to help us out with our younger group this year. And he's an excellent evaluator, excellent leader of men and kids. We're excited. We've got guys, Dave FLG coming back again, Casnovia coach. And also Danny Pope from New Hartford is coming back again for another year. And we've got a pretty good group of guys, and they're all working hard to evaluate these kids and get the better kids to, try out and have some fun out there.
Yeah, that's great, man. And I think what's really cool about this event, kind of if we're comparing it to the old Empire Games, is, you have opportunity if you're a rising freshman, rising sophomore, rising junior. The Empire Games, it wasn't all rising seniors, but most of the teams were made up of players who were going into their senior year. There's obviously some really special talents that might have made their regional teams going into their junior or sophomore years. But I think that's a really cool thing, because kids get to, not only compete against the best kids in their own grade, and you get to do this as a young man, but it also might be the first time maybe a player has ever stayed in a college dorm and got that college experience staying on a campus, which was at the New York State event, was at Binghamton the last 2 years, and it'll be at Albany this summer, which is really exciting. And then, I think it's great because the younger kids get to look up to the older guys and see, who the best kids are in their region and go watch them play, which is really cool. And then, as kids get older, it becomes a great, not just experience, but recruiting opportunity. We had over 100 college coaches in the first year, over 100 last year. I think with it being at Albany, could be even more this year, which is really great. Coach Hennessy, question for you. What are some of the things that the kids in your region are saying when they give feedback about the New York State event? What are some things that stand out that they really like about it? And what are some things that, you and your staff really like about it?
The kids, we've had nothing but positive things about it. I mean, the first year that we went at it, I think we grew exponentially just because the positive feedback the kids brought back, and they talked to their teammates. So that helped us the following year. But now we have like those seniors, or they would be our rising juniors this year, but they come back and they tell all the kids in your program and each program that, this is something you want to do. The best player in our section last year, pretty much he was at Bethlehem. He played in the All-Star game, did a great job. I think they lost to you guys, Coach, in the gold medal game, but his name was true. Liam Ferris from Bethlehem, who's going to Syracuse. And he pretty much was out there telling kids, no, you're doing this. It's the best thing for you. You're going to do it. You're going to love it. And stuff like that, when kids actually come through and they say things, the younger kids listen. We also were fortunate enough to have a kid from Shenandoah, who's going to be a senior this year, offered right at the regional championship game. So the recruiting tool is working. And when we get to tell stories like that, the kids actually hear it, because it's not coming from a player, coach. It's coming from a player instead. And our coaches, we've been able to put together, similar to Coach in Central, a tremendous coaching staff. We have, our high school coaches, our top high school coaches in our area. They come in, and in combination with 4 or 5 other guys, we return pretty much every coach from last year. We're bringing in evaluators from all over, but all of our coaches in our region want to be a little bit involved as well, as much as they can be. And we're running into the same problem, Coach, babies and all these other things that these younger coaches have going on that I'm not worrying about too much anymore. But for the most part, we have Mike Dorgang from Niskayuna coaching one of our levels. We have Dave Rounds from Bethlehem coaching one of our levels. We have Jimmy Towson, who used to coach at RPI. He coaches one of our levels as well. PJ Williams from Niskayuna, myself, and a couple of our assistants. We coach levels. So being able to provide coaches with that type of experience who are successful in our area attracts a variety of different players, as well as it attracts the parents to come and try and be part of something that we're trying to accomplish. So that actually works out very well for us as well.
Coach Frito, same for you, man. What's going on, and what are the guys saying up in Central with some feedback from the coaches and the players of the New York State event?
I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one of the most positive things that everybody talks about, and that would be Alexa. All our kids came back. All our kids came back and said, Alexa is unbelievable. It was so well organized, all the social media stuff the kids got out on. I mean, there was a group of Central kids that just had the best time of their life, and a lot due to Alexa getting them on social media, and the kids loved it, and they enjoyed the whole experience from the opening night motivational speaker each year. They loved that idea, the staying in the dorms, the whole thing. They just loved that whole experience, and that's the best word of mouth right there. Them coming back and saying, "Hey, I had a blast at this. It was great." And like Coach Hennessy said, we got kids offered right on the spot right there and that gets back that, hey, I didn't know what I was going to do, and now I'm going to Division I school. Had an offer from another school to play. So I think that's been excellent. The whole thing is such a well organized event and a great idea. The kids are ecstatic about it.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed just kind of being a part of the event, and I you mentioned someone like Alexa who has so many responsibilities and does a great job, but there's a team of people out there that are everyone's just kind of doing their part, and then when everyone works together, it becomes a great just experience for the kids, which is really why we do this. And one thing I noticed was just kind of like the dorm life. The kids really enjoy just hanging out and being kids, and playing spike ball in the quad and getting a chance to kind of walk around and go to the cafeteria. Like I just love to see that social element and kids mixing it up from different regions and things along those lines. That was a really cool thing for me to see. And I also I want to give a shout out to some of the sponsors that helped make the event possible. We had FLG Lacrosse, who's been the title sponsor for since the event started. Every kid that shows up, part of being in the event, they get a custom pair of gloves with their region's logo on it, which I think is really cool. They give the MVP prizes out for the All-Star game, which is unbelievable. They even had, two of their representatives, national representatives at the event, handing the awards out to the kids. As I'm interviewing them, the Epic guys are literally there and just talking about, their products and talking to the kids about what they like, and just kind of like just having casual conversation and getting their feedback, which is really cool. And then also Lacrosse Sports Network, they got an opportunity to stream the championships, which is really neat. A lot of times you go to these events, and unless you're there, you don't really get a good understanding of what it's like, because maybe their social media presence isn't that good, or maybe there's not a lot of coverage. But they have the whole 9 yards in terms of their coverage, as if it's like a college lacrosse game. They have guys commentating, they have play-by-play, they have it being live streamed, they document it, and they put it out there. So I think there's been a lot of hype around the event, and there's been a lot of really good positive exposure thanks to some of our big-time sponsors like Epic and the LAC Sports Network, which is really, really cool. Is there anything else you guys want to leave, being that we have about 3 minutes left, that maybe we didn't touch on as it relates to maybe the trial process, the top 50 game, or the New York State event themselves? You want to start with Coach Hen?
Well, I'm a little upset that Coach got to speak about Alexa before I did, because I think that she's kind of the glue that keeps everything together. So also, I just think that yourself as well as your father, both of you, Coach Winks, I think you guys have come up with a really good model for what's trying to happen. I love the fact that it's 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. I think it makes it competitive amongst all the regions rather than, taking and trying to combine everybody into one. I also like the format of having a limited number of games at the times when you do it. I mean, I think that allows kids to go and watch. So the formula that you guys have put together is very successful, and it's also enjoyable not only for coaches because they get to come to the game and actually show up and not worry about counting how many guys and doing these things, because all those things are done for them through the dorm life and just RAs and the way you guys have set things up. But it's also our feedback from our parents is it's absolutely phenomenal by doing it that way as well. They don't have to be there an hour before the game. They can show up 5 minutes and watch their kid play and cheer on all the good things. And even in the stands, I think it's great because you always have some people throwing it back and forth, but it's never through my observations, it's never been malicious in any of the stands that I've seen. Everybody's just out there. It's all rooting positive and rooting for the people that it is. So I think it's just bringing New York State together as a whole. And it's really doing a fantastic job. And as far as our region in general, we're working. We were very excited to get underway. We're very excited to keep on going, and hopefully on June 17th we get to announce some teams and some great stuff moving forward.
And Mark, how about for you, man? Is there anything else you want to touch on that we didn't get a chance to talk about as it relates to the games?
Just that, it's the central region. We have not had our tryouts yet, and we're planning to go, with our format that we've gone for the last 2 years down at Cortland State, top-notch venue. We're looking to go back there this year and get that. And then our top 50 games, still plan on going back to Hobart and getting that top 50 game along with the Western region, which has been excellent. There's been a ton of coaches at that part of it because it's such a great opportunity for them to come to see a lot of kids at a lot of different levels. And, we're just promoting our region as the best we can right now and getting going. And hopefully kids are excited about it and about coming and trying out this year, getting a chance to play some.
Also for the 80K region, Coach Hen, that's going to be at Shaker High School this year, the top 50 game. Is that right?
We are trying to nail that down. We've been put on pause with everything that's going on. There was just a little bit of technicalities that we had going on. It will be in the capital region, whether it's at Siena or Shaker or Albany or one of the other maybe local colleges that we have. Our choice right now, our first choice is Shaker High School. It's a comfortable place for me, so I like that idea. But we just have to wait until really the schools start opening back up for, all the education and all of, normal everyday business. As everybody knows, we're in a little bit of a crisis time right now that, this is probably the last thing from their mind is scheduling some time with me.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, hopefully things can get back to back to normal as soon as possible. And then also similar to Central, you still have Nassau and Suffolk County that have they still have their and then they have a Long Island showcase as well besides their top 50 game. That's an unbelievable series of events that's put forward by the Nassau and Suffolk directors, which are basically 8 Long Island high school coaches, and then you also have the parochial and New York City teams vying to get their spots into the event. So there's still a lot of action that needs to be had. Hopefully we can get that stuff in, but there's a lot that goes into the event, and it's been really cool to see it grow. And and it has grown and it's gotten better thanks to the amazing directors and coaches that have been associated with the event all around the island, especially you two guys. So I just want to give you guys a special thanks for all your hard work, and we appreciate it because it's been a home run thanks to you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us. I've enjoyed my time so far.
Absolutely. So, don't go anywhere just yet. We're going to give you guys a quick little piece of recruiting advice in our recruiting corner, which is presented by Sports Recruits. And then you can also watch this episode on demand on YouTube, on Facebook, so you can learn a little bit more about 80K and Central and the New York State Regional Championships.
So by bringing the parents into the fold, it might help the student athlete kind of expand their horizons a little bit outside of, again, maybe just the Dukes and the Syracuses that you see on TV come most Memorial Days. So building that list, and even if it's just a first pass, try to start with 20 or so schools. Again, I'm talking even if you're a freshman, just starting with that list of schools. And then if you can get some time on the calendar of your high school coach and or your club, whatever, probably your club is going to be maybe more involved in your process these days, and just ask them to look at these schools and just say, hey, what do you think? And it's totally fine for that list to span from D3 all the way to D1. You might have a school like Wesleyan on there, God forbid, all the way to defending national champion D1 program. So don't be shy about putting schools on there that I don't know, might seem like a stretch, because why not? It doesn't cost anything to dream.
So guys, we always leave the show with a piece of recruiting advice, and I always like to ask guys that are experienced and have helped players through the process and have the experience, the same thing. Like, what's maybe one piece of advice you would give to your own kids, to your own players, or just generally to anyone that might be asking? Coach Hen, just I would love to leave it with you. Just one little piece of advice.
After sitting in like one of these recruiting showcases myself, it was pretty powerful. One of the coaches spoke to the players, and he said, the only thing that matters and the only thing that measures effort is your grades. And nobody in any school in New York has a school that's tough enough that they can't get A's. So that's one of the messages that I like to. So when that's the only measure a recruiting coach can do, is look at your grades and measure effort that way. So if you're out there getting A's, then you're doing a great job. But if you're settling for B's and C's, I try to warn our kids that he's probably trying to find somebody with equal talent with A's.
That's awesome. Coach Frito, how about for you, my man?
Obviously, the academic piece is huge, like Coach said, but we also stressed having great character. I mean, on and off the field, doing the right thing. You can't emphasize that. Do the right thing all the time. People will notice. You watch some of these Division I programs and the stories that come out about kids and the things they're doing outside of lacrosse. And they're all great people, and I think that's important for kids to know, to strive to, have great character and do the right thing.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate your advice and your time. And, again, people can tune in on YouTube, on FLG Lacrosse's YouTube page, as well as our Facebook page at FLG Lacrosse. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week at 2 o'clock on Beyond the Game.
This is the beginning of meditation.
Good.